So, welcome to another edition of the 1 to 11 podcast, where myself, Paul, and my brother John,
hello,
or Johnny, we take on the task of creating a 1 to 11 of football scenarios and ideas of things that came to us to really support boredom during the coronavirus lockdown. So we want to make sure that other people get involved in this. We take a specific subject, we create 1 to 11, and we talk about why we got there. And I think this has become something that we really enjoyed because we didn't realise how much football meant to us until we started doing this.
Yeah, it's nice treading back on history, and quite clearly we're not going to get any football for a bit longer. And I have not been missing it, strangely. I think because I feel quite detached from it in the last few years. But yeah, it's nice going back over a time when I cared more.
Yeah, and I think that what we're covering this week kind of links perfectly to that. So one of the things that's always helped kind of engage my football fandom even more is the Championship Manager Football Manager series. So this is something that when you first bought home Champ Manager 0001 or 99 2000,
99 2000, I used to play 2 and 3 around my friend's house, and I can't remember which one it was, but one of them there was a bug, so you could get players for free.
The Edgar Davids bug.
Yeah.
Where you put in a gigantic offer for him that you knew they'd accept. They accept. You change it to 0, and they'd still accept.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think if that was in 3, I think in 2 it happened with everyone. So it was always a bit of a cheat. But 99 to 2000 was, I think, the first time we really got into it ourselves.
I fully blame this game for me not doing well in my A levels.
I fully blame this game for you not doing well in your A levels. It's not a secret.
I think, for those who don't play this regularly, this is a game that's been cited in over 20 divorce cases.
Yeah.
It's something that has always stayed with me. When you moved away, to London when I was still young and living with mum and dad, and when you moved away, the first thing I had to do was to go out and buy a laptop because I still had to play Football Manager. Damn it!
True. Yeah.
I think it's become this, and I've bought every edition of it since 2001 now.
Yeah.
If you hadn't already bought it when we lived together, when we were growing up. And it's now become this wonderful thing where me and my wife will watch Netflix in the evening, and I can have it on because I can still be present.
Have you ever been in the presence of a date and been playing it secretly?
If Stacey Sherwood ever listened to this, I am so sorry. I invited her around the house. I had the house to myself. We're going to have this amazing night. And bear in mind, I was a cashier at the place I worked at the time. And I said to her, I'm really sorry, I've got some important work to do because I had this amazing career going.
Sometimes when you want to run, though, you don't want to save and stop it.
It was a Chelsea career, and it was going great guns. And I made her wait for an hour while I did important work. And she just sat there watching TV before we went out. And she came over, what work are you doing? Oh, important work. And that's when she found out I was playing Football Manager. And that's the moment she realised I wasn't the man for her.
And good for her.
Yeah, and to be fair, yeah, good for her. Well, I saw her a few years later on a night out, and this was one of the things she mentioned straight away, where she knew I wasn't the one.
Oh yeah, I used to see her on nights out, and she'd always mention that she liked you, but she couldn't really get past the football manager thing.
Yeah, and I don't blame her.
Like,
so yeah,
my connection to the game isn't as much. I find it too much now. It's too in depth, and my job involves a lot of spreadsheets and data manipulation, and it just feels like a busman's holiday. So I've not really gone past Football Manager 12, 13, and I think Football Manager 4 was the peak for me.
Oh, see, it's Champ Manager 4.
Champ Manager 4, because it was it seemed to be the where it was the turning point before it got really in depth.
I think the joy of it now is it's as in depth as you want it to be.
Yeah.
I have very good assistants who do a lot of the work for me. I pick a formation and I stick with that formation come hell or high water. No matter what the fans say, I will play that formation. And I don't train my players. I don't get involved in any of that. For me, I don't play Football Manager. I play Director of Football Head Coach.
Yes. And that's the game I want, really.
Some seasons, some career modes, I don't even pick the players. I just have final say over who gets signed. A director of football finds players for me, and I decide if I want them. So essentially, I play head coach.
It depends just how interactive you want to be.
Absolutely, and one of the things that we say with this, in terms of us kind of looking back on football and feeling that we're not as much of a fan of it now as we were then, I play a lot of Football Manager. I have a Leeds team currently that's in 2029, 2030. So the year before, I had a Middlesbrough career that went to 2034.
I linked with a guy, and he said the day he was managing, I think probably managing Arsenal, knowing him, and he realised he'd gone too far when Paul Scholes got the Manchester United manager's job, and then retired. And he was like, at that point, I was like, yeah, I need to quit this because there's no fun in just playing with the Regens for me. I think I know I'm far too specific and stuff, but yeah, there's no fun in it for me.
There's a meme that's been going around recently on social media of there's Leonardo DiCaprio from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood pointing at the screen.
Yeah.
Where you see a player you found first in FIFA who became good in real life, or a player you signed in FIFA signed for your team in real life. One of the things that I loved about Football Manager was just going through that database and combing through for the Wonder Kids, finding out these amazing players. And I remember telling you about Javier Saviola before he joined Barcelona.
Yeah.
Oh no, I've ruined it later.
It's like internet and pre-hipster days and
people being ITK.
Yeah. You really had to scour. So yeah, it was. I remember you phoning me when I moved down to London to tell me about. Oh, I've just found this right winger from Argentina. Brilliant. He's Aguero. We can bring him in and
plays for Independiente.
Plays for Independiente. If you can get him for nothing at the start, it's brilliant. So yeah. But you phoned me to tell me that. Like, it was the day, the release date, and sort of on that day, I just knew that you were going to call me and tell me, oh, by the way, I just found this guy, blah blah blah. So
bear in mind, a lot of the 1 to 11 that I'm doing here, and I feel you may be similar here, John, are players that we found in there. They became a labour of love, and players. So there's different, I wouldn't say there's criteria with this one, but I've gone for players who I loved. This is a personal thing for me. They're players that
the whole premise of this, it should be personal. I've picked players that I loved from a specific year. So I'll be going, my right back is X and X from 0102.
And I've got some players who I've got that as well, but I've got some players who go over various.
Yes, but I will get into that specifically. But
And I also have a surprise for you, John, because I'm going to trigger a synapse in your brain later by saying
no.
I'm going to say 3 words, and you're immediately going to be taken back to the spare room in our house in Marston Mortain.
Okay.
Playing Football Manager on that huge white PC.
Oh God, yeah. On the landing.
Yep. So, as always, for ease, we've gone through 4-4-2.
Well, for ease, we're going 4-4-2, as if it's Champ Manager 2.
I think within this as well, this is the other reason I chose the 4-4-2 is because up until about Football Manager 2010, damn near every team I had was a 4-4-2.
I think,
or it was the attacking 4-4-2, where basically you had a 4-4-2, or the diamond 4-4-2, or the
I generally went
4-1-2-1-2.
4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3, but I'm happy to go 4-4-2 on this one because it sticks with what we've gone so far.
So I'd like to start with a goalkeeper.
That's where we generally start.
So I'd like to go to Football Manager 2005 or Football Manager, and there is a Colombian goalkeeper called Libes Arenas.
Okay.
He played for Envigado. You could get him a work permit, which was incredibly important. He ended up moving to Lazio in real life. And the day he did... Oh, and by the way, he was shite for it.
Yeah.
But he was this amazing wonder kid who you could always get to go to the Premier League, and I loved him. And also, because he was kind of the Football Manager hipster in me, it was like, who's your goalkeeper? Oh, yeah, just some Colombian wonder kid. You've probably not heard of him. And every career I had on Football Manager, he was my goalkeeper. It didn't matter who I was. Oh, Chelsea, you got a pet check? You can sod off. Bring in my Colombian wonder kid.
Before we get into this, it should be said I am not as in deep to Football Manager as yourself.
That was a very specific one. I've got 3 very specific players. Other than that, I think you're going to know everyone else I've got. And then I've got the one that will trigger your brain.
So my goalkeeper is Sebastian Fry.
Oh my God, yes. I relent immediately. He was at Fiorentina, at Parma. He was available. He was great. He didn't play for his national team either. So if you put in any international clauses, they never got paid.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you know what? If you do play any of the old ones, look for Libes Arenas because he's amazing. If I'm mispronouncing his name, I apologise. But he's either you're a Lazio fan in the mid-2000s who was very aware of their reserve goalkeepers, or you played Football Manager. If you're not any of those, you've never heard of him.
Oh, yeah, I've never heard of him.
I'm happy to go with Sebastian Fry because I feel he's a very unloved goalkeeper.
He never. I mean, he ended up at Inter. He never really lived up to his promise, and ended up, I think, just floating around, various Italian benches.
But it's around the time of co-ownership as well, wasn't it? And
yeah,
Inter always had a world-class goalkeeper in one way or another, and I always feel like they didn't need him.
No, not really. Yeah, it's yeah.
But you know what?
Last time I heard he was in Turkey. Yeah, he finished his career in Turkey, but he almost played 500 games, but it's not enough for a player of when you saw how good.
Can I just be 1 second? Yeah, wait, dickhead. Go. You run on, you bully. Sorry.
That's all right.
Binks was beating Jess up.
Ah, dick.
So, my apologies. 3, 2. So, yeah, John, Sebastian Fry was a player I really, really liked. So, yeah, over 500 appearances.
Just under 497 in his career. 2 internationals, but he never lived up to the promise of the early champ 0102 that era.
I think also he's someone who he kind of straddled a really. You had players who were always there. So Barthez was always going to be the first choice because he won the World Cup, because he won the Euros.
Then he was too old when you had Lloris come in
and you had Coupe in between. Coupe was an amazing goalkeeper. Never got the love he deserved. But yeah, so I'm happy to rely on Sebastian Fry. I think you're going to go with my right back.
Go on.
Dario Serna from Shakhtar.
Oh yeah. Yep. I love Dario Serna.
And probably about 10 years worth of football managers, Dario Serna.
Yeah, just the consistency. I went very specific, really. Going back to 0102 again. And I picked Brett Emerton, who was good. I generally bought him because his free kicks were 20.
Yes.
And everything else was fair to middling. But I just loved. But yeah, he was never really worth the money you spent on him, because you have to pay like 15 million for him.
Because he was from Feyenoord, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He ended up at Blackburn, didn't he, in real life?
Ended up at Blackburn. Quite a good player at Blackburn. Really, check out his story as a real player. Very, very humble, interesting player. But yeah, I can't argue against Serna, because he was the de facto right back that you had. He was almost affordable.
I need a right back, and I've got money.
Yeah, he could also play left back.
Yeah,
play wing back. Blah blah blah. He was brilliant.
He really was. Yeah.
So yeah, no, I can't. I'm going. That's fine.
So I'm going to go for left back next, just staying on the fullbacks, because I'm going to go with a left back I know you'll agree with.
Go on.
And maybe this week, in some areas, I'm pandering. And you know what? If I am, there's no competition here. But the left back I've gone for is Ian Hart.
Ooh, I didn't go for Ian Hart.
The reason why I went for Ian Hart was free kick taking. Now, this is Ian Hart in the early 2000s for Leeds, and also when he was at Reading later on. Because when he was at Reading, he was a decent left back who was cheap, he was affordable, could score a free kick. And you could, when I say you couldn't put a price on that, you very much could. Reading did every career I played. And I paid it happily and handsomely. But yeah, my left back is Ian Hart.
So you've gone very, for years of not consistency, but...
And those are the ones that... There's only one other player who kind of goes over multiple... So, 2 other players who go over multiple versions of these games. But Ian Hart was one for me who was always kind of... Much like Serna, for about 10 years. Oh my God, I need a left back. And I need somebody who could be a backup at a good club, be decent enough for a Midland club, be amazing for a bottom feeder.
As well, I'm a Leeds fan. Ian Hart was slow, even at his peak, but he wasn't in the games. They really overestimated his pace. The Square Ball podcast fanzine are doing a Champ Manager Revisited, where they're trying to avoid Leeds making the same mistakes of the Risdale era, and it's bizarrely it's quite good. And there, Ian Hart for them is bizarrely, on the job, I mean, their spare left back is Mike Whitlow, a 38-year-old Mike Whitlow, but who I also love. But yeah, but I couldn't pick Ian Hart because I know in real life all he had was free kicks, so it's wrong.
The Irish Roberto Carlos.
Yeah. Well, he was. Yeah. Actually, he was very good in the Champ Manager series for a few years. Yeah, even when he was older, he was overestimated again. I went with Julio Arca for left back.
Ooh, that's a good shout. That's a very good shout because he was Sunderland.
Sunderland, yeah.
You could get him for a decent price, and he was someone who you could. He was usually available
because he was Sunderland. Yeah, you didn't have to pay the earth for him. So I went with Julio. Specifically, I think 0102, 0203 was his peak. I also thought of Fabio Aurelio, who was an Insua.
Insua, yeah. Insua was. I get Insua. I'm going to give you Julio Arca. I relent on Julio Arca. He was a great player and someone I forgot about. He was someone I used to sign most careers as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, him and Ian Hart. I'll go for Julio Arca. I relent on that one happily.
Okay.
So, going to centre backs. So there's one player who played kind of anywhere across defence.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say his name, and this is one of the players that trigger that synapse in your brain. Anthony Van den Bore.
Oh God, yes! How did I forget him? Yeah.
Straight away.
He goes in.
£750,000 from Anderlecht. Bish bash bosh. Amazing.
Yeah, I can't believe I forgot him. Yeah, he was brilliant. Damn. Because as well, at the same time, you could bring in Company.
Who's my other choice?
From Hamburg.
From Anderlecht in CM4. You could bring him in from Anderlecht for £4.5 million, and he'd be your centre back for the next 10 years.
Well, even then, when he was at Hamburg, you could bring him in for £6 million.
Like City did.
Yeah. Once again, I went really specific. And I went Martin Laursen on the Xbox version, which I think was 0304.
There was versions on the Xbox for quite a while. There was
they still are, I believe.
Football Manager 08, you could play on the Xbox. But you can play the new ones on it, can't you?
Yeah, because of the connection to the Microsoft Store. But yeah, 0304 on the Xbox. One year, Martin Laursen was my top scorer when I won the league with 23 goals. And for that, he will forever hold a special place in my heart.
And you know, for me, I love the story. Vincent Company is. I found him at Anderlecht.
Yeah.
And I bought him, and I had him in my team for a year. And I remember reading in the paper that Inter were going to buy Vincent Company. It was in the gossip section, and I was like, Inter are going to pay £10 million for youngster Vincent Company at Anderlecht. So I was like, aha! I did it again! But yeah, the centre back was that DiCaprio meme. For a centre back who scored you 23 goals, we've spoken about him in actually the last one we did and how he was so underrated as a player. I'm happy. So should we go Van den Bore and Martin Laursen?
Yeah. The other one I was going to have, because of I just like the story of him, was oh God, I've forgotten his name now. There's a couple of Brazilians. There was Doria in Football Manager 12.
Oh, Doria was an amazing player.
You get a work permit for him. It cost about $6 million or something. But once again, he was my top scorer one year when I won the league with just under 20 goals.
What was that guy who
Brano.
Yeah, burnt his house down.
That was my other one. Yeah, if you get him. Once again, when he joined
Bayern Munich,
you know, it was like it was the we spotted him. So yeah, but Van den Boer has to be in. He was the player to get every career for a few years. And I was always disappointed when he ended up at that rubbish Portsmouth team in real life.
Yeah, the kind of the end days of the Russian billionaire coming in, and
yeah, so that was sad, but you know, because he could never match up anyway to the player that the champ manager built him up to be.
The player he was in my mind, this marauding defender who just could score, could cross, was just this monster of a player, this assist king. And now everybody knows him for there's been a sending off at Portsmouth. Has there, Jeff?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he
was the player who was sent off.
He was the player, yeah. I thought he'd been substituted. Yeah. No, bless him. So yeah, he was a legend. The bona fide legend. And yeah, I'm glad you've let Mal Avson in, just because for me, it wasn't just me and my friend Gary. We used to play careers. It was the player that you had to buy. So,
every career. I can't remember which one it was, but it's £750,000 from Anderlecht. There was a compensation clause on him, I think.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
Yeah, I think it was maybe 203, as early as that. But yeah. Okay, let's move into midfield.
So I'm going to go to the left midfield first, and this is one that's probably for the Champ Manager, Football Manager fanboys, but you'll agree with me, Freddie Adu.
Do you know what? Yeah, because you had to buy him as a 15-year-old, didn't you?
14.
Yeah.
And he had like a dribbling of 17, a pace of 18 as a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
If you got him in the team and you were patient, he was just unplayable, just a different level.
Yeah. I mean, this is a game responsible effectively for crushing his career, because he could never live up to.
I think the problem was, there's certain players.
There's expectation built anyway because of his youth, but then the expectation built on this side of the pond as well, because people in beards, were like, oh god, this guy's the second coming.
This is the new Pele.
Yeah, effectively.
This is going to be the Tiger Woods of soccer. Yeah,
and he never was. He just never was that, which is a shame. Now he flogs Hoovers, and that was a few years ago. I don't know what he does now, but who knows? I think he was a club promoter last I heard.
But you know what? He's someone who, I bet through signing on fees, I bet he's made a few.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he's doing fine. I had very specifically PSV Iron Robin, because I loved him, but it's only because I couldn't think of anyone else.
Yeah, PSV Iron Robin was very good, and also very cheap.
Very, well, not that cheap, but yeah, he was good. The best left midfielder I ever had, bizarrely, was a 35-year-old Pavel Nedved, who I got in at Charlton on a free transfer, and he scored 38 goals in a season for me, and I won the league. And that, but it's not a surprise I like Pavel Nedved.
I also remember you on the left wing having Alessandro Del Piero at Grimsby in League Two.
I did, yeah, very old. Alessandro Del Piero.
But that was just basically where any player over the age of 33 who became free
I bought.
You ended up with like the world team of the year from 2000.
Yeah.
You had Rivaldo, Del Piero.
My right midfielder was Mendieta.
Yes, you had Cafu as well, I believe.
I did have a very old,
very old Cafu,
but it was still better than anyone else in.
Lucio.
And, yeah, and I had Barthez in goal. And he went 15 games without conceding a goal. So, fine. You do what is needed.
So I'd like to see you and raise you Freddie Adu.
I can't argue Freddie Adu. Freddie Adu was a legend in a very specific world.
So at right mid, I have a specific player. For those who played Football Manager 07-08, there was a guy who played for Bucaramanga in Colombia, and his name was Sherman Cardenas.
I remember Sherman Cardenas.
Sherman Cardenas was one of the people. I rang you about Aguero. I remember excitedly showing you Saviola and Riquelme. I remember excitedly showing you Lionel Messi at Barcelona.
Yeah.
Sherman Cardenas was one of the players that I rang you. I rang you when you lived in London to tell you about Sherman Cardenas.
Yeah, I used to bring him in every career because he was brilliant.
He really was.
He really was. And I can't. Once again, mine's very specific, just because I loved him. And he would, but it doesn't beat Sherman Cardenas as a champ legend for me. And that was Joaquin.
Oh, see, Joaquin was somebody I loved, and he's a great shout, and he's a very, very. He was a very close second to me in this, because when he played for Betis, he was the player I wanted, but I could never afford.
That's it. And whenever I could get him in, it was, just the highlight of my whole career was bringing Joaquin. I just loved him as a player, but once again, Sherman Cardenas just has to be in this team. So, centre mid, I've gone another Colombian.
Freddie Guarín.
Yes.
Yes. That is the first time in multiple episodes that we've got the same player.
Yep.
Freddie Guarín was you know how in American football they talk about the undisputed first ballot Hall of Famer?
Yeah.
Freddie Guarín. He was just a long shot machine.
Loved him. And of course ended up at Porto and Inter Milan. But yeah, absolutely wonderful player on Champ Manager. Very good player in real life. Had a wonderful long shot in. I think in Porto he scored an absolute thunder bastard.
Yes, that was a potential World Goal of the Year contender. The Puskas Award.
The Puskas Award. But yeah,
Freddie Guarín just every time, because he also. I remember I found Libis Arenas, the goalkeeper, because he played for the Colombian team, Freddie Guarín. I remember searching for Freddie Guarín on a recommendation and seeing this goalkeeper. It was like, anytime, I'll have a look. I'll have a look at every other player who's available to see if they're any good. Which on the new ones is so much easier because you've got a little eye button and you can just hover over and it'll see their stats, which is great. But yeah, Freddie Guarín was on there because he also helped me find Libis Arenas.
Fair enough. He was just superb little player. So I'm very happy to see him in the team. Who have you got next to him?
So I was stuck between two. One of them, again, is pandering, but you'll go for it. One is specific. Football Manager 2005, or the original Football Manager. There was a South African attacking midfielder called Leboang Mokoena. You could get him for £275,000, and he was just a bastard of a player. Now, he was so very specific. Now, based on the fact that I've had some specifics already, I did have one up my sleeve.
Go on.
Aging Pablo Aimar.
Okay.
Aging Pablo Aimar in about 2011.
Okay. I mean, I love Aimar.
You could get him cheap. I believe you could get him on freeze. Pablo Aimar was just a player that I think there's like the tail end of him at Benfica.
Yeah.
He was attacking. I mean, they've also got Riquelme. You've got various players who kind of took on the attacking mid. But yeah, my first thought was Leboang Makuenya.
Well, Leboang Makuenya is one of those players whose Wikipedia page mentions that he was a much sought after player in Football Manager 06. You know.
06.
So yeah. Yeah. Which is sort of what we're building here. I think it's very easy to say, "Oh, centre back, I want Alessandro Nesta," and we're avoiding that.
No, because I could never afford Nesta.
No, but there's a reason. That's because he's very good. And like Martin Samuel in 0102.
Walter Samuel. Martin Samuel's the writer.
That's it. Walter Samuel. Was brilliant, but you can never afford him. So yeah,
Lucio was great, but you could never afford him.
Yeah,
He'd never leave Bayern.
Yeah, and that's it. So,
although Lucio, when he was like 42 and playing for Pune in India,
oh yeah,
was great.
Yeah, still brilliant.
So, who have you gone?
I had two players marked for my midfield.
So Freddie Guarín,
and then the other spot was two youngsters. One who, for a couple of years, was a player I bought in because you could get him for nothing, which is Ariel Borsiuk.
QPR legend.
And another, I think, Football Manager 12, when he played for Pescara.
Marco Verratti.
Who, of course, has gone on to have quite a career. And was just a nasty little shit. He'd have to take him out of a few games because he was suspended.
But you could get him for £2 million from Pescara.
£2 million from Pescara. I think, FM12. I think FM13 he was already at Paris Saint-Germain. Wonderful.
He was. You rang me about him.
Yeah, that was the first time I got excited because I'd found this little, this Italian.
There's a little Italian rat bastard playing for Pescara.
Basically, I thought I found the next Gattuso, and it turns out I had.
You were absolutely on the money with that.
Yeah, it's.
I do have to give one small shout out here on the latest versions. There's a player who plays for Sporting Gijón, which I just like to imagine a donkey carrying for the second part of it.
Great.
There's a guy called Peleo Maria.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there's another attacking mid, which just I realise this goes against all things because these aren't planned, but these are just kind of players who just kind of come into my mind immediately. Ika Munayin,
yes. Oh, he was brilliant. And he had a minimum fee, which is just
17.5 million.
Nectar of gods. As well, going back to 03, 04 on the Xbox, were you could bring in Pirlo from AC Milan reserves, and basically, if you brought him in, you won the league.
Yes.
It was
and also, he could play anywhere in midfield well. So DM,
from defensive midfield to up front, because he played for Brescia, in sort of further forward. Wonderful player, but can I have Verratti?
Very much so. Guarín and Verratti, a thunderbolt bastard of a midfield.
I mean, yeah. Okay. Here's the tough one up front.
So I'm going to fire a synapse in your brain, John. I'm going to take you back to that AST computer.
Okay.
Chucks Nwoko.
I knew you were going to pick him. I knew you were going to pick him. Because, yeah.
The Maltese footballing legend. The stalwart of the Birkirkara team of the early 2000s, Chucks Nwoko.
And let's not kid, he's in the team. I'm
not allowing Cherno Samba because it's too easy. Every time a new version of Football Manager comes out, some media outlet wheels out Cherno Samba.
Yeah, I feel sorry for him as well. It really did ruin his career.
No, Millwall refusing an offer from Liverpool ruined his career, apparently.
Yeah, but the expectation put him upon him because of this game.
Yeah, he was, and the thing with Cherno Samba was you can't have two players like Adu. You had to wait 4 years before you'd get any joy out of him. Cherno Samba, you had to wait 2 years. He could play straight away, but if you were a decent team, you wouldn't play him.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, and yeah. Let's not pick him. Let's not pick him.
Chucks Nwoko goes in straight away because he was one of those players who was just massively overrated for no real reason. He was a very decent forward, and he could play as a backup for a great team or as a great starter for other teams. Like Amir Zaki as well.
Yeah. Yeah, he was brilliant. He always...
Because you had him at Wigan before he went to Wigan.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think of... Because I like how we avoided the obvious sort of Scandinavian players from the early champ managers where they were just ridiculously overrated.
Yeah, because the guy who did the research just gave up and just put in figures, didn't he?
Yeah.
I'm also not allowing there's certain legends of the game. Tonton, Zola,
Lukaku.
The guy who's a Derby who... And also there's another player who has a... There's another... I'll tell you who I forgot, John, just while we're going back to midfield. Player we bought every game. Sergei Krivets.
Oh, yeah. God, yeah, the Belarusian.
Yeah.
There's, of course, Mark Kerr.
Yes.
Kim Kallstrom.
Kallstrom, yeah, when he was at Hammarby.
Yeah. Kennedy Choglu.
Yeah.
Okoronkwo.
Yes. I tell you, there's another player who I bought many, many careers, who was also a very decent player, who I don't think gets remembered for how good he was because of who he replaced. Mahamadou Diarra.
Oh, yeah.
Because he replaced Makalele, and he wasn't Makalele, I don't think he ever got the love he deserved, because he was him and Essien were an amazing midfield partnership
for Lyon, yeah.
Those two together allowed Juninho Pernambucano to just be a YouTube star.
Yeah, but no, they were brilliant midfield. But yeah, there's some of the people that are obvious, but I'm sort of glad we've avoided because.
Yeah, I think
that they're great, but there's no personal connection.
Yeah,
if you listen to this, you're probably going, "Why haven't you picked Mukuku and Samba?"
Because it's too easy.
Too easy. Yeah.
And because it was one of those things that when you bought the game, you'd talk to your friends about it at school. You'd have friends come over. Cherno Samba became the cheat code. It was almost, I've got this. I've started a new career. Have you bought Samba?
Yeah. Yeah, I have.
So the other player I've got Chucks Nwoko. The next one I've got alongside him is Fernando Cavanaghi.
I'm glad you had him because I wanted to have him.
Fernando Cavanaghi, moving from River. I remember having a Tottenham career where he scored, and this wasn't in the save scumming days of, I've lost one, let me start again.
Yeah.
I remember him legitimately scoring 52 Premier League goals in a season for me.
Yeah. I always found him very hit and miss.
He was always a hit for me on one of the earlier Football Managers. He became the kind of someone I hated. The more he aged as well. He went to Bordeaux and I'd sign him and he was rubbish and I'd just, why weren't you what you were as good as you were?
Yeah. I got angry with him because he didn't live up to the expectations of what he should have been, and
there's a few players who, like, I remember Higuain before he went to Real Madrid.
Yeah,
and
Gargo, you could get them both from Boca.
Boca and Higuain was River.
One was River and one was Boca. Yeah.
Like it always was. Saviola was Boca, wasn't it? No, Saviola was River. You'd go to River and Boca. You'd steal their best players.
Mikelme.
Yes. You'd go to the Argentinian teams. You'd steal their best players. You can still do it now. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So who you got up front with Nwoko?
Fernando Cavanaghi.
Of course, Fernando Cavanaghi.
So tell me who you've got.
See, mine's really specific based on a couple of years. And it's basically because for a couple of years, I was obsessed with Fernando Morientes. And it's not, okay. He's an obvious choice because for a while he was, he played for Real Madrid and whatever, Liverpool and stuff. But yeah, I just loved him. The other was Roy Mackay.
Oh, Bayern Roy Mackay.
Bayern Roy Mackay was for me. He was a cheat code for a few years.
Roy Mackay is a player who I feel doesn't get the love he deserved.
No, yeah, he's very fashionable player. It seems.
Well, he played for a Bayern team that wasn't as good as it could have been.
Yeah.
It wasn't the all-conquering team of the early 2000s with Elber and Effenberg. And he wasn't the Bayern team which became this juggernaut under Hitzfeld that Guardiola didn't make anywhere better and doesn't get slated for. But, that's just me.
Okay.
He played for an unfashionable Bayern team. He played for a Holland team that wasn't as good as it was.
No.
So, you were coming off the 2000s team that should have won something.
Yeah.
The early 2000s.
Yeah.
The late 2000s team that really should have won something. He played for that unfashionable Holland in the middle, where Van Nistelrooy wasn't the player he was. Bergkamp was going. Davids and Seedorf were getting older. Schneider hadn't come in yet. Van der Vaart was still too young.
Bridge, wasn't he?
Yeah. And I just...
But I think just for the pure anger I got that Cavanaghi was never the player that I hoped he would be, I'm going to put him in the team.
I love that man. I adored that man.
And I can't remember which one he was that he was really good at. I think it must be 06 maybe, something like that.
Possibly, yeah.
But yeah, 05, 06. But yeah, stunning little player. So that is our team. Should I take you through it?
Yes, please.
In goalkeeper, we have Sebastian Fry.
Okay.
Right back, Cerner. Left back, Julio Arca. Centre back, Van den Boer and Martin Lawson. Right midfield is Sherman Cardanius. Left midfield is a 14-year-old Freddie Adu.
Yes.
Centre mid, Guarin and Verratti. And up front, Chuck Nwoko and Fernando Cavanaghi.
Chuck Nwoko.
Do you know what this team says to me?
Success.
Goals.
Yeah.
But yeah. No, and obviously all from different eras as our teams are, but yeah, I think
it's the same thing as always.
Brought us most joy, haven't they?
This is personal to us too. This is us agreeing and trying to get those parts of our brain firing that we hadn't thought about in years, and we've seen that with some of the players we've raised today. If you don't agree with it, there's someone who you think absolutely has to be in, and how dare you not put in Maxim Shizalko?
I do love Maxim Shizalko, but
Yeah,
I just don't have the connection with him that I had with Chuck Nwoko and Fernando Cavanaghi.
absolutely. So if you have a burning desire to tell us how we're incorrect, we would love to hear from you. You can do that not through Apple reviews, where you must only leave good things.
Yes, but you can do it at thesnapuk@outlook.com.
Absolutely. And if you love American football or you want to find out more about American football, get NFL Game Pass. It's free. You won't learn anything from the Snap UK, which is a very good podcast about American football.
It's a brilliant podcast.
If you want to hear four middle-aged men argue about it, then that's the place for you.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's much more professional than this. But we'll be back with another choice shortly. A few weeks, probably, when we can get around to putting this out. But in the meantime, very much enjoyed having you, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.